Good morning. Welcome to you, and thank you for being with us today on a solemn morning across Marion County and all of central Indiana as we mourn the death of Southport Police Lieutenant Aaron Allan. Right now, you are looking at a live picture inside Bankers Life Fieldhouse, where funeral services for Lieutenant Allan are getting underway.
As you know, Lieutenant Allan died last week in the line of duty. He was shot while trying to help a man involved in a car crash. The hundreds of police officers and members of the community are now making their way to their seats inside Bankers Life Fieldhouse for the funeral service this morning.
This morning we have perspective and analysis, truly expertise from Deputy Chief Gary Woodruff of the Lawrence Police Department, kind enough to join us all morning if you were with us on Daybreak. And many times in the past we've spoken about difficult days like this. So we'll ask you a lot of questions over the next few hours about what it's like to be inside a building like that on a day like this, to be outside, to be still serving, to lose a friend, in fact.
Right, and it is someone that you knew, as we've established here, not only on Daybreak here this morning, but also now as we continue the conversation. Let's talk about Lieutenant Aaron Allan and what kind of man he was.
Well, he did it right. And talking to the Southport officers who knew him and even working with him myself during the Indiana State Fair, he did things well. He was always that officer who was on the spot, regardless of where something was happening. He was right there when somebody was in need. That's a special gift.
And talk about being there right on the spot. Southport, of course, one of the many communities in a rather complicated setup here in, we call it Indianapolis. It's not always Indianapolis. Sometimes it's Lawrence, Southport, Speedway. Everybody works together to some degree, but when you have that little pocket that is yours, you're not just always on call, you also know everyone you serve.
That's one of the special things about policing in a bit of a smaller community. They get to know you, you get to know the people that we serve, and those relationships are formed very readily. And IMPD does a great job of doing that as well, but it's easier done, I think, in smaller communities. It's one of the reasons why many of us enjoy policing in the somewhat smaller communities.
Let's talk about what people are seeing right now on their screen. You are looking at a live picture of Bankers Life Fieldhouse. We see many men and women who serve, who are walking by right now. What is going on? Who are these people?
Yeah, these are officers that are attending the funeral and the proceedings here, and they're doing a file by by the casket there, and then they'll be on their way to their seats. And as you can imagine, there are literally hundreds, maybe even to the 4-digit numbers of attendees that will be there today. And it's a way to show respect and support for the family, but respect for the fallen officer as well.
Ever surprised when you see people from such far-flung places, different states, different communities, occasionally different countries come and visit for things, something like this?
At the viewing yesterday and at the funeral today, there's officers here from the NYPD, Chicago Police, from Dallas, Fort Worth.
We've seen Canadian Mounties in the past.
Right. Yeah, we've seen all that, and that burden shared, I think, is burden somewhat lessened for everyone. And just knowing that brotherhood and sisterhood is there to support you, that's huge.
Well, and you hear a lot of people talk about law enforcement being a family, right? And unfortunately, there are many departments who know the pain all too well. Departments in and around Indianapolis know this pain. And unfortunately, we're too good as a city, as individual departments, putting on events like this.
We have the FOP, their state critical incident response and memorial team just do a phenomenal job at coordinating these events. And sadly, there's been too much practice that we've all had at them, and for our departments that are a part of that fraternity, if you will, it's sad, but it's also once you experience that, you want to participate in it to give back what you received.
All right, 4 minutes after 11 o'clock. This part of the funeral often takes quite some time because so many different departments want to be able to be there and show their respects. If you've just joined us, missed us at the top of the hour, I want to let you know what you're tuning in for. Funeral services for Lieutenant Aaron Allan from the Southport Police Department, of course, killed on duty now just more than a week and a half ago. It's been a difficult time in central Indiana. We lost an Indianapolis police officer from injuries that he'd suffered in a crash. He died on the very same day as Lieutenant Allan. So this will echo in many ways, not always, but in many ways, the service we saw midweek in that case. Over the next hour, you'll see the services start to unfold at the Fieldhouse, but that's far from the only thing happening today. once that wraps up inside, an awful lot more happens outside as well.
Now, you mentioned the services that we had earlier this week for Jim Waters. He was, of course, with IMPD Deputy Chief. What kinds of differences will we see for anyone who watched that funeral on Wednesday?
There are some special distinctions that are reserved for line of duty deaths. One of them is the ceremony with the white carnations at the conclusion of the graveside services. The officers will file by. Each officer will be wearing a white carnation with a red tip.
We've seen a lot of people walking by already holding those in their hand just in this live picture.
Yeah, holding, and the officers will have them pinned to their uniforms. At the end of the service, there'll be another file by the casket, and those white carnations will be left there. The red tip symbolizes the blood spilled. And there are other distinctions as well. The procession will go from Bankers Life Fieldhouse past Southport PD, and there'll be a pause there to mark him off duty.
A difficult task. Different people handle that. Sometimes the department will have whatever dispatcher happens to be on duty. Others, perhaps the dispatcher who was on duty at the time of the terrible call. Believe in this case, it's the former, not the latter. The person who helped on that day has respectfully declined that, as I think most would absolutely understand, would not maybe want to echo what happened that day.
One of our reporters, Brittany Lewis, is part of our coverage today, and she'll be joining us here in a couple of hours from the Southport PD to report on the 1042 call, as it's called. Talk about what that call is for anyone who doesn't know.
Sure. 1042 is police code for going off duty. So throughout all this, Lieutenant Allan has still been considered working.
Take a moment anytime you need a moment today. Sure. We are turning to you for your expertise, but you knew this man, you worked with this man, you do the work this man did, and probably have that low-level sense every day that you're on the task of what needs to happen. So never be afraid to look at me and say, "Scotty, need a minute, okay?"
That's good.
Okay. Keep it real.
Keep it real.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. So as we look inside, again, this is Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Some of the people have been seated already, but those that you're watching right now have been given sort of a special opportunity to walk by. They're in law enforcement or family of law enforcement, not just here in central Indiana, but truly from across the country. They will be there in those first sets of seats at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Who's in the rest of the Fieldhouse? Everyone and anyone. Since we first learned of the plans for this, it was very clear that everyone who wanted to be there to pay tribute, to honor the service and the life of Aaron Allan have always been welcome to be part of this.
All right, so let's talk now, if you have a moment, Gary, about the 1042.
Yeah, sure. So, he's been considered on duty since this incident occurred, and that's the final marking of him going off duty. And it's a very emotional moment for everybody involved, especially the Southport PD officers. That radio broadcast will go throughout central Indiana.
And we intend to bring it to you live, not only from there, but also, if we can, to bring you some of the audio as well. Scott, you mentioned that we're going to have the procession down to Southport after the 1042 call in Southport. The procession will then go back north to Crown Hill, where he'll be laid to rest. And we do actually have a piece of the procession, so we can kind of allow you to know exactly where that's going. So if you at home can't make it today to the services, but you want to be on the route, you could do some of that. Some of it will go down Madison.
And as a practical matter, it's a busy day in central Indiana, the opening of the Indiana State Fair, things of that nature. It may be a day to pack a little extra patience, even if you're not going to be part of this. Just be aware there are many people who will be lining that procession route, both down to Southport and back up to Crown Hill Funeral Home as well. And there's no specific timing on this. In a general sense, and this funeral will take however long the funeral takes and last as long as it needs to last. And then after the service inside is over, it's not an immediate, in the vehicles and go down south. There'll be time outside as well. So it's impossible to pinpoint exactly when this street might be closed or that street might close. We know which of the big ones, all of the Compass Point streets, East and North Street, will all be involved at some point. But there's no way to say, well, at 2:15 this street will shut down. So just pack a little bit of extra patience.
So let's take a look at the procession route here this morning. We do know it's going to go, once it leaves Bankers Life, it will go north on Pennsylvania from Bankers Life to Washington Street, then west on Washington to Capitol, south on Capitol to McCarty, east on McCarty to Madison. You saw it go south and then of course head back north, where it will end at Crown Hill Cemetery. Gary, talk about these few miles and the significance of the procession and why this is done.
Well, I know something that IMPD especially wanted to emphasize was to ask folks who are planning on going to the procession route to not park along the sides of the streets, to keep the route open for the procession to get through efficiently, and to move that many vehicles through the streets is a challenge, to say the least. Everybody wants to pay their respects, and you know, of course, everybody honors that. But parking along the procession route, find a safe place to park. But going past Southport PD is critical. People will gather there. You know, his vehicle there, and the memorial that people have come there to leave items and pay their respects there. You know, that's very important for the community, especially a smaller community, to have a gathering point like that to show their respect.
Always the police officer thinking of practical issues like parking while also still grieving. You know, that brings to mind the thought, and this is not the time or the place to relive the details of what brought us to this moment with Lieutenant Aaron Allan. You can certainly find more about that in the broadcast coverage later in the day, and of course online anytime you want. But as a difficulty for the officers who are there today to grieve, it must be, is that this is still very much a policing matter as well.
Sure.
Is your mind ever far from the job? Can you shrug off the job at all to just be there in that moment at that time?
Well, I've been a co-lead detective on an officer-involved death, and you focus. You know, your focus is to resolve that issue professionally and to bring that matter to justice. I know we're not focusing on that, nor should we, but there are officers and detectives especially who have worked this case beginning to end and still are at this very moment. And I think that's an important point of emphasis as well.
You're watching again still the file by essentially here this morning, as the services did begin essentially at 11 o'clock, but we do wait for however long it takes for the people to pass by the casket, honor the life that we're honoring today before the beginning. We know some people who will be there, who will be noted, some of the acknowledgments. The Honorable Eric Holcomb, our governor here in Indiana, as well as Joe Donnelly, Senator Joe Donnelly here is supposed to be here. Also Mayor Joe Hogsett of Indianapolis, as Scott was pointing out. This is Southport, right, where the police department where Lieutenant Allan was a part of, but it is also still a part of Indianapolis, the city in which, you know, the hub of our state, really. And you're going to have a lot of people who are not just known around the city, but known around the state here at this ceremony today.
No word how long it'll last. Again, it'll last as long as it needs to, and the people who need to speak certainly won't be given any time limits on that. They'll surely echo thoughts about his life, his service. There is in the program, and we wouldn't want to give it in detail yet so that you can watch it as it unfolds, but a letter essentially from his loving wife Stacy with thoughts about Aaron Allan, of course, as a police officer, but as a man as well. This was a dad who'd just said a so long see you buddy to his son going off to kindergarten, I believe. So that's another thing that probably is worth remembering and underscoring as we watch this. This is the funeral service of a fallen police officer. It's also the funeral service of a dad.
Gary, let's talk about how long Lieutenant Allan spent in law enforcement. He was in law enforcement for 20 years. It just only happened to be with Southport for 6, I believe. Talk about what that's like to have so many years of a background in policing, similar to the way you have.
Sure. Well, and he started with the Air Force as well. He's a veteran of the Air Force and was discharged there and entered law enforcement as a civilian. For Indianapolis Police, and then with the Sheriff's Department, many enter at the young ages to get their foot in the door, get some experience. And it's also important to remember, I think, that most of the Southport Police Department, they're reserve officers. They're not paid full-time officers.
Oh, wow.
Lieutenant Allan was the first officer who was a full-time paid officer beyond the Chief of Police there. So that's a special distinction that he holds. And then he served with the Indiana Deaf School as well. The Deaf School has its own police department. There's right there near the fairgrounds. And you know, regardless of what agency you work for, large, small, a educational institution, you know, we're all essentially doing the same job.
Talk, if you will, about this complicated and wonderful web that we have here in Indianapolis, Marion County, Lawrence, Southport, Speedway. I'm forgetting others as well. I still have buddies in Nora who say, no, we're a sovereign nation. We're not part of Indianapolis. So every corner has its story. In the field, let's say, for instance, you have a traffic stop and it crosses that Southport-Indianapolis line. How does it work? Because yes, he's a Southport officer, you're a Lawrence officer, IMPD has an awful lot of officers as well.
Sure, but we're all in it together. You know, law enforcement is law enforcement, whether it's here in central Indiana or across the country. I would say that the smaller departments, we do hold a special bond. You know, Indianapolis is our big brothers and sisters, but you know, the smaller entities, you know, we have the Unigov system and the countywide system, but, you know, Lawrence Speedway, Beech Grove, Cumberland, Southport, Homecroft, and many others.
And this happened in Homecroft. And Homecroft is one of those places that you can live almost your entire life and not realize that it's not just a neighborhood, it's actually a town of, I don't know, 700 folks or so with its own governing body. And so even though we generally broadly refer to things as Indianapolis, that is such a complex quilt.
Sure.
And Southport certainly part and parcel of that.
And, you know, to your point, there is a lot of different people who step in situations like this, so that not only the people of Southport, not only the police officers that might have known Lieutenant Allan, but others as well, can step in to allow those people to grieve. So let's talk about that understanding that each department has with the other.
Sure, and we at Lawrence Police, we've done that, and we've been the recipient of that assistance. So, you know, right now there are officers from throughout central Indiana that are backfilling, we call it, that are working the streets of the East District, the Southeast District of Southport to cover for the officers. You know, the calls for service continue moving forward. There's a need to continue to serve there. So there are officers out there working diligently right now, maybe outside of their normal jurisdictional areas to assist, and that includes not just officers from within Marion County, but from the contiguous counties as well.
If you're watching right now, you're seeing again people from departments from across the country who are here today. Never maybe met the man, but certainly knew the work that he did and the life that has lost, the significance of it as well. At some point, the officers who were part of that difficult day, and because of that, obviously still are very actively involved in the resolution of it, they get a special opportunity to pass by, take a moment as well. But again, no department certainly is turned away. Anybody who wants to be here from any corner of the country or internationally, and we always see this with police funerals, such great representation from departments. Clearly those are sheriff's department, those are deputies that are walking by right now. You will see Forest Service folks, you will see DNR folks out there, you will see the police officers, you will see jailers. Everybody who wears a badge of any kind comes to these.
Federal agencies.
Yes. FBI, CIA. Right. You may not recognize them right away, but that's kind of the goal of that.
And our colleagues in the fire service, EMS, you know, they're all directly affected as well.
The Indianapolis Fire Department public information officer, who is one of the people that we turn to instantly on fire issues, she's helped, for instance, take a lead role in communications for this, and we see that sort of knitting together of these resources in a time like this.
You know, Rita is amazing. We all work with her regularly, and nobody does the PIO side better than she does. And in that small little group too, we're all in that together as well.
I would imagine it's easy for any department, no matter the size, to be overwhelmed by this kind of loss.
Oh, you can't even imagine. And with a smaller department, it is overwhelming very quickly. That makes the need of the FOP memorial team just so critical, and they've literally established a template that other states have borrowed and used in officer funerals, and they led the way, not just in Indiana but in the entire nation, to establish this protocol, if you will, of these honors, and they've just done a marvelous job in coordinating this for any agency, but especially a smaller agency. At first, you're overwhelmed, and to have that group of people come in and are able to give provides order, a sense in chaos. It's invaluable.
What we would give to not have to talk about this and it's not even every few years, it seems like every year or two, we revisit this issue. I know in part of your preparation for today, and it probably didn't take much other than revisiting your own memory banks, you kind of looked at, for instance, just in the last decade and a half or so, how many officers we lost in the line of duty around here.
Yeah, since 2000, just here in Marion County, there have been a total of 10.
Wow.
And statewide, 41.
And that's on duty deaths. That doesn't include, for instance, Jim Waters, who Lauren, you mentioned a little bit ago. Off duty, yes. some would say doing a police chore, though he was
Right.
out stopping where there was debris on the interstate and trying to keep things safe. And so there's that distinction of on duty, off duty.
Yes, there is, and again, there are special distinctions that are reserved for line of duty deaths. I mentioned this the other day to the viewers, but I'll mention it again. At the chief's in the chief's office, once you get into the chief's office, I don't know that you're ever really off duty.
Off the job. That's right. That's right.
Right.
One word that often sticks out to me in situations like this, you hear the word honor a lot, and mainly from people who say, it is my honor to step in and serve the people of Southport, to allow Southport officers to grieve. It is my honor to step in and speak on behalf of, fill in the blank, essentially. Talk about honor and what role honor has on a day like today.
Well, again, it's important to understand we're public servants. We are called to this.
This is one of those moments, and that's fine.
Right. So, pick me up for a minute, please.
You got it.
So right now, we'll just reset for you here this morning. The funeral services for Lieutenant Aaron Allan are set to begin at 11 o'clock, and essentially they have begun. You see people filing by at this point. We do know the family of Lieutenant Allan was seated around 10:15 this morning at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Right now you're seeing many men and women from many different departments, police agencies and otherwise, also filing by the casket. It's part of the template that Gary was mentioning earlier, just moments ago, about how these things are handled.
Sure. Yeah, and it is truly our honor to law enforcement officers' honor to serve. There's a saying that the people are the police and the police are the people. So, whatever, and I would also say that of those that much is given, much is expected.
And too often that favor is called in, and this is one of those days, unfortunately. Lieutenant Aaron Allan passed away, terrible circumstances, late last month. Of course, funeral services today. There was opportunity for the viewing and the opportunity to give respect, of course, yesterday. Today there will also be the funeral procession. If you've not heard us talk about it here on 24-Hour News 8 before, the call is out for all. At this point, you've made the choice, or the choice been made for you, couldn't get to the funeral service today. There is still a grand opportunity to pay respects just by being along that procession route.
Gary, we talk a lot about the significance of many things that are done in this service today, and while outside looking in, it might seem like people walking 2 by 2 is just they're walking side by side and that's it, but there is some significance between the 2 by 2 and the single file line.
Sure, the 2 by 2, there are several reasons for that. One of it is just sheer movement and management of people, of getting the attendees through in an efficient manner. At some point, the officers that were some of the responders to the scene and close colleagues at Southport PD will have their own file by in single file, and that's always a special moment, of course. And then you see out to the left and right of the casket also, you see the honor guard members.
And you know them by the braid, is that correct?
Right. The red braid that they are wearing signifies the loss of blood in the line of duty.
Another one of those tasks, sort of, the call goes out and it seems people step forward always. You never want that body unattended during the course of all this.
He has been with, another officer has been with him from the very moment that he was injured up until this very moment as well. He's never been alone.
And when he's interred, when the funeral services are over and his body is in its final resting place, that'll in essence be the same as well. One of the grand traditions of Crown Hill Cemetery, wherever the family chooses to have the remains in the cemetery, it feels very much like a place that has deep respect for law enforcement, for military, for service.
Well, it's such a special place, and if I could circle back around with the officers performing the honor guard duties. Those officers come in from all over the state as well, and most of them are from departments who have experienced this.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's one of the sad situations that you don't fully understand until you've been in that situation.
Right.
And as we've established here, I mean, Central Indiana has been in this situation way too many times. I do want to bring you back to something you were just mentioning about how the body of Lieutenant Allan has never been left alone. That same honor is given to the family as well. The family has never been alone in this process.
Right, yeah. At the beginning of an incident like this, one of the first things that we'll do is go contact the family immediately, obviously get them to the hospital as absolutely quickly as possible. And an officer from Southport PD, usually somebody that's very close to the family, will be assigned to the family to see that any need that can be reasonably met is met. It's part of that critical incident response and memorial team that the FOP has, and they just do incredible work. Many departments, and we just started ours just this year, have a post team, police officer support team, that contribute to that. So ours is, along with many others. I know Greenfield PD is starting their own post team. Cumberland they're taking interviews next week, as a matter of fact. So you know, for ours and many others, this has literally been a trial by fire. But again, it's an honor to serve in those capacities and all the capacities that officers are serving in.
On your screen, you're seeing again Bankers Life Fieldhouse. A look over the folks who have assembled. In that front section there, you've largely got family, members of law enforcement, possibly military as well, people in uniform, but also out, family members of theirs as well, given the opportunity to be up near the speakers. Long list of speakers. Things will start with a call to worship from an IMPD chaplain, but you will hear people representing all parts of our community and all corners of Aaron Allan's life as well. We got, not long ago, kind of a look at the program for the first time. We had an idea what would be in it. Now we know the formal list of things. First thing that pops out to me, he must like country music. You'll hear a Reba McEntire song. You'll hear a Lee Brice song during this.
Well, and it is unfortunate that most of us watching this right now didn't have the pleasure of knowing Lieutenant Allan, but there was great strides taken, great pain taken to make sure that we all know who Lieutenant Allan was by the end of this ceremony, by the end of the service. Gary Woodruff, again, if you're just joining us, Deputy Chief of Lawrence Township Police. Gary, what is the process of finding the people who will be a part of this service and this type of service?
Sure, the wishes of the family is first and foremost. What his surviving family wishes. They're given a variety of options that they can select from or identify as things that they would like to do to pay respect to Aaron. But ultimately, it's about the family's wishes and what they would like. The pallbearers all specifically selected by the family.
Oh, really?
The music that's heard and the speakers, that's all either approved or requested by the family.
Pallbearers, for instance, today will all be men who served with him on the Southport Police Department. Right. As you mentioned before, by and large, those are folks who've got day jobs and then get called in to work on a reserve basis. Lieutenant Allan was one of the very few where this was his full-time task. So, you know, even though there's a chief of that department, he clearly was a top leader as well.
Right. Yeah. You know, they have have an excellent department, very progressive. With their reserve program in particular, saw several of their Explorer Scouts yesterday there as well. And what a terrific group of kids.
Yeah. Gary, we do appreciate you joining us here today and giving us the perspective that really only another officer, a fellow officer, and even a friend of Lieutenant Allan would be able to provide here today. So we're just watching as the procession continues, essentially inside Bankers Life Fieldhouse. It began at 11 o'clock. It began even earlier than that. There was a procession down to Bankers Life Fieldhouse. There was several hours of work that's gone into it just this morning alone, not to mention the dozens and dozens of hours that it takes to plan a proper memorial to a man who was lost his life in the line of duty.
As you were mentioning, the embrace of the family by law enforcement and how that instantly begins, and obviously deference and reverence are paid to what the family wants to have happen. Nothing is forced upon them during any of this. There's that template they can follow. They could choose to make this an entirely private affair, but in this case they've not. I was reminded that not many days ago we were covering that great annual tradition of the bicycle ride put on by police officers who bicycle all around the state, and the sole and specific purpose of that is to raise awareness of and money for those families that are in this situation. And the biggest hope among the people who do that COPS ride, that Cycling for Survivors ride, is that they won't add anybody new to the rolls for many, many years. But here it is, and it was truly just days after the end of that this year, where they now know who they have to embrace now.
Sure. The COPS program, Concerns of Police Survivors, they assist not just in the immediate moment. Where they really come into support is in the aftermath of all this. You know, that's an ongoing, continuous support process that is in place there, not only for the family, but for the department affected.
Hey, Gary, I know we're watching members of the Honor Guard at this point doing part of their duty. Can you explain to us what's happening right now?
So this appears to me like this will be a changing of the Honor Guard there. Standing at attention like that at casket side is it's arduous, you know, and so every 15 minutes to a half hour they switch out.
No one would ever complain about it, but I've talked to folks who candidly have been in one of those and said it is an emotionally and physically exhausting thing to do.
And remember, this vigil, if you will, has been ongoing
for days now.
Right.
Days and days.
Literally a week and a half almost.
Right. So yeah, this is a changing of the guard, and could also start to signal the beginning of the.
It seems like this would be Chaplain Patricia Holman who might begin the call to worship. Let's listen in.
We shall rejoice and be glad in it. We don't understand, and yet we rejoice. We're hurt, and yet we rejoice. We're grieving, and yet we rejoice. For the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of comfort is here. My name is Patricia Holman, and I am the staff chaplain for the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. And we are here today to honor, to pay tribute to Lieutenant Aaron W. Allan from the Southport Police Department, taken from us July 27th, 2017. We don't pay tribute because of how he died. He is a hero because of how he lived. Our brother has fallen. The blue line has been stained with blood. Today we will honor a great man. And we thank you for taking part. Coming to bring the invocation will be Dr. Chris Holland, pastor of the Father's House, after which there will be a musical tribute back to God.
Would you bow your heads, please, in an attitude of prayer? Father, we come together this day to celebrate the life of a man that gave his life for his city, for his fellow man, for his family, for his home. Dedicated, sworn in duty and in honor. We stand before you today, Lord, in all of our dress, all of the things that we've prepared today to show this man the great honor he deserves in how he lived. But Lord, we are also behind these badges, underneath these clothes, and behind our eyes, humans with broken hearts, minds absolutely tormented with how can this happen? Thoughts racing. And as we stand before you today, we stand very humble, seeking and desiring to know your wisdom, your plan, and your way for us from this day forward. We ask you, Lord, that you would comfort this precious family, his law enforcement family, and that you would comfort all of us that care, those that stand on the blue line, those that stand behind the blue line, that have dedicated and given our lives for righteousness and peace. We ask today for your deepest comfort in our spirit where only you can touch, deep in our heart where you know the very intimate part of man. We pray this now, we ask you now, we believe it by faith, and we receive it today by faith. In the name of Jesus the Christ, amen.
Hands give this world back to God. Oh, I'll give it back.
I will have an Old Testament reading followed by a New Testament reading. The Old Testament will come from Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, even though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though its waters roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with its swelling. There is a river whose stream shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God shall help her just at the break of dawn. The nations raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Come, behold the works of the Lord, who has made desolations in the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariot in the fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Our New Testament reading will come from Matthew 5. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God.
On behalf of the Allan family, Miss Stacy, and our awesome young men and little boy, TJ, and Allan Jr., Mr. Allan Jr., we want to say, Honorable Governor and Senator Donnelly and Mayor McClure, Mayor Hogsett, Chief Vaughn, and Chief Roach, the command staff of Southport and all of its officers, along with the command staff of IMPD and all of its officers, and the community that's gathered here today. The love and the support that's been shown this week, just from Thursday, has been absolutely tremendous. The words that came from the family, even on television, from the father and the family. It's been a tremendous outpouring of support, and we need to do more of that. Lieutenant Allan's tragic death has absolutely shocked and made all of us stop and realize where we are in our nation, in our state, in our city, in our communities, in our homes, and in our hearts. And so today I want to share a couple of things with you as the eulogist. And I brought with me a couple of tools, if you don't mind. If you were alive in 1501 in Florence, Italy, this is a sound that you would have heard on a day when an artist was asked to chisel out one of the greatest statues that the world has ever known. One of the greatest images that is sought by, viewed by, photographed for, and seen all over the world. People come from all over the world, have for years since then, finished in 1504, and that sound would have been the sound that you would have heard through those years. This piece of marble that was presented to this artist, nobody wanted to touch. No other artist, 2 others chosen, only one took the chance, because the other 2 artists were concerned about the fractures and the cracks that were in the marble, and they were concerned that at one point the marble would crumble and they would be left with embarrassment and with shame about what they had come to do for this great town. Not under the hand of a master, and not under the hand of the master that took it upon himself at 26 years old to say, I'll be the one and I'll do it for you. He knows that deep inside there's something special, but on the outside there's only jagged edges and sharpness, and there's rough parts, and it just looks like just a chunk of marble, but on the inside there's something that's very valuable and very precious to all of humanity, and He alone is the only one that can see it. When asked how he sees the carved image, he's carving in the marble slab, he replies, the image is already in the marble. All I have to do is remove the excess that surrounds it so that you then can see what I see on the inside. I brought these little tools with me today as a reminder to you and to me that just like that slab of marble, so are you and so am I as we start out our lives. In 1983, Lieutenant Aaron W. Allan, at the age of 5, decided to be a police officer. Kind of a rough slab of marble. There's another little young man in here today that's about 5 years old, and in his heart, he's decided to be a police officer, and everybody's encouraging him. But he's not a police officer yet. He has a little plastic badge, can't carry a real one, and he has a little plastic gun, he can't carry a real one. He's got a little plastic police car. He's gonna drive around, but on the inside, he is a police officer as big and as strong and as powerful as any officer that stands, sits, or walks in this room today. And in his eyes, he wants to fulfill the calling in the shoes of our fallen comrade that lays before us today. He answers the call in his heart at the age of 5 and begins his destiny and his purpose. For his life, he's just a boy, a piece of marble hiding something on the inside. And then in 1999, a drill instructor for the United States Air Force took a chisel in hand and moved towards his life and began to carve out the image of Aaron Allan as a military man. Oh, but when he got down to part, it didn't work. Why? Because that wasn't what was on the inside. And due to an illness, a struggle in his body, a severe illness, he was granted a medical discharge, and he moved on to another sculptor. Aaron began the shaping process through his parents who are here with us today. He began with teachers, many teachers. He began with many people in his life and mentors, and yes, drill instructors from Indiana Academy for Law Enforcement. The image of a fine man and a fine police officer begins to take shape, and everybody can see it that knows him and that's around him. 2001, he served as the civilian police volunteer for IPD. 2004, Marion County Sheriff's Department. 2009, resource officer for Indiana School for the Deaf. 2011, a resource officer for Franklin Township Schools. In 2011, he begins as a reserve officer for Southport Police Department. 2017, he is now the first full-time officer of Southport Police Department. And I wish I could have been there on that day, because I've learned loving about this man, and I've enjoyed actually getting, and I'll bet you he was an absolute blast. 10 years he worked as an officer at the fairgrounds, where we see him, as it appears, a fine police officer in the making. Many people may see a tough exterior, just like you may look around today and look at guys and ladies who have a very somber face. We see a tough exterior, tickets written. Oh, you know, the more anger and cursing you spew, the more tickets there are for you. The handcuffs always ready. The chase, you're going to get ran down, I guarantee. The drugs or alcohol sniffed out like a crime dog, a canine. However, if you need help with something, he's the man you call. If you need help with something common, that's the guy you want on the phone, because his answer is, hey bud, what's up? Not ever sounding like he's tired, asleep, or that he hadn't had any rest that night and had just gotten home. The image begins to show little by little in his life. As he stands before the public's eyes, some people call him a mean, well, I can't say. As you, no, I can't say. I can't say. Officer Cody, did you get into my message? Oh, okay. So it looks like some of the things you wrote in my notes. Somebody throw some candy at him, please. If you notice that only Southport officers are laughing, it's because these are things that they shared and things that they get. The problem is that these people that say these things are shallow. They don't see past the outside surface area of an officer's life. Those who know this work of art the best see simply the teddy bear. The teddy bear is a story where, as tough as Lieutenant Aaron is, and as strong and powerful as he is, and as strict as he is about the law, he had such a caring side that even if your car needed a battery, he would take money out of his own pocket and go buy one and put it in your car. By the way, the battery is still in the car, still running today. I asked, I found out. So when he got back, someone said, oh man, Aaron, you're not a tough backside, you're just a teddy bear. And it stuck with him forever. They hear the peals of laughter as he keys your mic and gets you to call dispatch when it's really him talking to you. They see the man who's filled with compassion so deep that he will also throw up even if he's on a call, if he sees that you're throwing up, out of compassion, of course, so you're not alone. He bought things and he raised money to help people complete tasks in their life, such as the little boy who wants to be a police officer. And he got together to buy him a little electric car. These people that know him the best, they see the man and they know that he'll always have your back, and they also know that he never seems to be afraid. Even on the day that his life was tragically taken, he wasn't running away, he wasn't hiding, he wasn't sitting in his car hoping somebody else would do it. No sir, no ma'am, he was in the car and he was taking care of business when his life was taken. That's the kind of men and women I love to be around. That's the kind of image that I love to see in the life of a man. Often seeming tireless, but always on the job. On Thursday, July the 27th, 2017, this wonderful masterpiece was attacked, killed in the line of duty, doing what he loved, and what had shaped and carved out his life, his destiny, and his purpose. And may he today remind you and me and all of us and all those who are listening by way of television or internet that every day of our lives we're presented before the master carver. And if we'll allow him, he'll place us in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. If you ask about the statue that I spoke about at the beginning of my story and my eulogy, that man was none other than Mr. Michelangelo, and that statue was none other than King David, that he carved out to provide men who were in warfare a surge of courage and a surge of hope in their darkest and most difficult hour in Florence. I say today that we stand to honor the life of this wonderful man who gave his life for his community. Thank you.
Safely in my embrace. Oh, but when you
At this time, we'll have remarks by the Honorable Eric Holcomb, Governor of the state of Indiana, followed by the Honorable Joseph Donnelly, Senator, State of Indiana, followed by the Honorable Russell McClure, Mayor from the city of Southport, followed by the Honorable Joseph Hogsett, Mayor of the city of Indianapolis, followed by Chief Tom Vaughn, Southport Police Department.
Our hearts are heavy today and will be for many days to come. A wife has lost a husband, parents lost a son, children lost their dad. In Indiana has lost a hero, Lieutenant Allan, the Southport Police Department. On behalf of an eternally grateful state, we offer our deepest condolences. And looking out to those who have assembled here today, I see a sea of shared sorrow and grief. But I also see and I feel love. Lieutenant Allan was clearly loved a lot. And we know God loves him as well, and he has called him home. St. Augustine said, "What does love look like? It has hands to help others. It has the feet to hasten to the poor and the needy. It has eyes to see misery and want. It has ears to hear the sighs and the sorrows of men." That is what love looks like. I read that quote the other night and immediately thought of Lieutenant Allan. Aaron Allan is what love looks like. Certainly his hands helped countless others. His feet took him into harm's way numerous times to protect his friends and his neighbors, to protect your family and mine. His eyes saw want and suffering, and he tried to better it. His ears heard sorrows, and he tried to right them. We will never be able to repay all the debts that we owe Lieutenant Allan. But we can and we must honor him. We can honor him by doing exactly what he dedicated his life to doing: answering the call, serving those in need, giving back to our communities, leaving our little corner of the world a little better than we found it, just exactly like he did every day. To Stacy and the whole family, I just want to say that, and you know this, you do not grieve alone. Just look around you. Your family just got a whole heck of a lot bigger. I'd say to the tune of about 6.6 plus million Hoosiers strong, and a lot of other folks from around the nation. To his brothers and his sisters in blue and in brown and in green, you too aren't alone. We support you. We're grateful for you. And when I go to the Lord later tonight and for many nights to come, I'll pray for healing for Aaron's family, his fellow officers, and healing for this community. At the very same time, I will give thanks. I'll give thanks to God that although He welcomed Aaron back home too soon, He graced Indiana with Aaron in the first place, and He touched us all beyond description. And in the midst of this senseless tragedy, I will find some comfort and derive daily strength from that. For I know that for those who live in the Lord, never say goodbye for the last time. And I know that with every step on earth that Aaron took, he threw off light and love. And that love and that light will shine down every day until we all meet again. Rest in peace, Aaron Allan.
It breaks all of our hearts to be here today. But to be here for such an extraordinary person. Governor, Congressman Rokita, to our mayors, our chiefs, all our city council, to all our men and women in blue, in brown, in green, to the people of Southport. It's such an amazing place. Most of all, to Stacy and Jim and Sherry and Lori and TJ and Aaron Jr., to his brother and sister, to Grandma, to the whole family, on behalf of the people of the United States, and as the governor said, on behalf of the people of the state of Indiana, there's no way we can ever repay you or thank you for such an extraordinary person. Jim, what an amazing guy. What an incredible person. An Air Force veteran, IMPD volunteer, Marion County Sheriff volunteer, constant devotion, to everybody, School for the Deaf, to the State Fair. At the State Fair, it's incredible what he accomplished there. In 2015, Southport Department Policeman of the Year for saving lives there. At the State Fair, he gave CPR and saved another life there. He was a devout volunteer, leader, an incredible role model in Southport who believed in community policing and stopped to get to know everybody. And you just looked at him and you could see the smile on his face. As the Reverend was saying, can you imagine meeting someone and the next thing you know, you're in an auto parts store buying a battery for them with your own money because he knew that that family was in a tough spot and he could help them out. It's character. It's devotion. Stacy, he was an amazing man, as you well know. You look at that and you see a hero of Indiana, but not just of Indiana, to the country. This is what America is made of. This is when we think of our police, when we think of our fire, who go into the buildings when others are coming out, who rush to help when everyone's in danger. And to all these families here, when your spouse or loved one heads out on patrol, you never know. But you go there anyhow. You go there because you love your community, you love your job, and you have a vocation, a calling, a dedication. And it is breathtaking what kind of man he was. You made him, Stacy, an even better person. To TJ and Aaron Jr., all he had to do was look at the picture. You were the lights of his lives. To Jim and Sherry and Lori, you gave us a staggering, amazing person who saved lives, who touched lives, and who made people's lives better. And so from all of us, thank you. Thanks for his spirit, his smile, his heart, and his kindness, and for everything he's done for all of us. And we believe this. We believe that he is with God. And Stacy, we believe we'll see him again, and that the kids will be with him again, and that all of us will get a chance to say thank you to him again. But until that time, rest in peace. We can't wait to see you. And God bless you, and thank you.
These past few days, this past week, has been an ordeal no family, no police department, and no city should ever have to endure. Lieutenant Aaron Allan gave his life in the service of others. He was more than just an outstanding officer. He was a dedicated husband to Stacy, a father to TJ and Aaron Jr., son to his father James and Sherry and his mother Laurie, brother to Ryan and Corey, grandson to Shirley. He was also a true friend. John 15:13 says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." And that is just what Lieutenant Allan has done. And that's what every police officer is willing to do every day. Lieutenant Allan is a true hero, a man who was dedicated to his family and dedicated to his work as a police officer. Aaron was an excellent example of what a law enforcement officer should be. He was competent, dedicated, tenacious, and tough. And speaking to many former and current colleagues, the overriding theme is the same. Aaron was a competent, dedicated professional. But he also could be compassionate, caring, earning him a nickname, Teddy Bear. We were fortunate to witness Lieutenant Allan's dedication by his saving lives and his compassion through providing for other people he did not know. Aaron and I share a common interest in hunting and fishing. There were times in the office where we would trade stories. You know how those go. Fish gets bigger, each exaggerating our exploits to the point where you'd think that both of us had dispatched a charging grizzly bear with a piece of duct tape and a paper clip. That's just kind of how we went back at each other. There were other times where we would throw candy at each other for no reason. Just walk in and you get hit in the chest with a piece of chocolate. Lieutenant Allan also had a serious side. He would want us to focus on the goals of our departments. He would want us to stay focused on our commitment to the safety and the well-being of those around us. He would want us to serve others. Aaron was committed to making a difference, and he did. Police departments are not buildings or vehicles or equipment. Police departments are people. Police departments are the men and women who selflessly serve their communities with integrity, who work tirelessly so our citizens can live in safety and security. Police departments are people like Lieutenant Allan. We're all hurting. The loss of Aaron has cut us to the core, but it has also strengthened our resolve. It has strengthened our communities. I am confident that God will use this tragedy for good. My prayer is that we will always remember and never forget. My prayer is that God will lift up the family of Lieutenant Allan and heal their wounds. My prayer is that God will keep and protect all of our police officers, first responders, and their families. To borrow Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?' And Aaron said, 'Here am I, send me.'" Godspeed, Lieutenant Allan. You are irreplaceable, and you will be missed.
We the living, we the grateful, we their legacy. Twice this week, Indianapolis has paid witness to the perils attached to protecting the public's safety. Tragedies like this one often hinder police departments from adding officers, and understandably so. How can we ask someone to walk into that valley? But we do. And they do. To the family of Lieutenant Allan, thank you for allowing us to be with you today. Just as we were together earlier this week in Southport. It was National Night Out. And in the years before, Aaron Allan always volunteered for the dunk tank. This year, his father filled that role. And this coming Monday, someone will fill Lieutenant Allan's role on duty. That's what we do in the wake of such a tragedy. Fill the roles left by the loved ones we've lost. But we will never, ever be able to replace the one who first filled them. Our community's true heroes take up the cause despite the shadows in the valley and carry on with courage. Lieutenant Aaron Allan took up that cause. May we all live with increasing devotion to the memory of Lieutenant Allan. May we all be a little more like this good man. Amen.
Please bear with me. I didn't lose an officer. I lost a friend. Aaron loved his wife and his children, hunting and fishing, and police work. And I think it was pretty much in that order. Stacy and Allan were made for each other. You could see it when they looked. Every time they looked in each other's eyes, you just saw that bond. Stacy, Aaron loved you and the boys with all his heart. Stacy, TJ, Aaron Jr., I want you to know that we support you guys from here and now. You're part of the family, whether you really want to be here or not now. You're not going to be able to get away from us. I could not be more proud of the Southport police officers who do this job every day without any pay. It takes a strong commitment for a community to want to protect them. You and all the other officers across this nation get dressed every day with eyes wide open to the risk of not coming home. I want you all to know that the community is overwhelmingly grateful for you, and as we can see in the past week, support us. This past week, I've met countless officers who have come from near and far to show their support. Men and women of law enforcement, I want you to know justice will be served. Righteousness will always prevail. The job we do every day is very important. 7 square miles of our community has undergone 3 national events: Richmond Hills, the pastor tragically killed, and now Aaron Allan killed in the line of duty. Our community has displayed resolve and resilience over and over. Our community continues to wrap their arms around us, and we are very grateful. On Monday night, I had the honor of me and some of the officers were able to go to Kokomo, Indiana, to meet an impressive child named Malachi. Malachi heard the news about Aaron and just wanted to show his support. He set up a lemonade stand to raise money for Aaron's family. He also trained me how to make lemonade. I wasn't doing it right. This is just one of the many acts of kindness that has been shown to us in this past week. I want the community to know that our officers will continue to relentlessly run towards accidents to preserve life. We are here and will continue to be here, and we truly appreciate everyone's support. Thank you.
At this time, we'll have a musical tribute sung by Lieutenant Brian Wolf of the Marion County Sheriff's Department, Amazing Grace, the Policeman's Tribute.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Sacrifice
We'll now have remembrances. Sergeant Christopher Berry, Deputy Lonnie Helton, Deputy Robert Lane, and Lieutenant John Livingston from the Marion County Sheriff's Department, followed by the music of Lee Bryce, Boy, followed by the message coming from Dr. Chris Holland.
Aaron, or Allan as we like to call him, was not just our best friend. We were all close as brothers. Allan and I met at the Sheriff's Department 13 years ago. I remember our first conversation. I asked him who his favorite football team was. He told me Tampa Bay. I was so excited since I've always been a Buccaneer fan myself. I couldn't believe I found another Buccaneer fan in Colts country. I think we're 2 of about 5. Our bond over football was immediate. Now, we didn't see the same on baseball. He loved the St. Louis Cardinals, I loved the Cubs. So you can imagine there was a little tension there. Sports bonded us, but it was so much more that brought us together. We never argued over sports or anything. Being friends with Allan was easy. I was the best man in his wedding. I was there moments after his son was born. The 4 of us all camped together. We fished together. We did everything together. We worked a lot of part-time security jobs together. So much that we saw each other more than we saw our own families. We've been involved in our share of issues, like the State Fair stage collapse. It was strange. We never trained together, but we had a connection and unspoken ability to understand what the other was thinking and support each other on various scenes and situations. He always had our 6. Because of who he was to the 4 of us, it's important that I stand here today with the strength of Allan to tell you about our friend. Allan gave everyone a chance. His life was about helping and loving others. He had a way of bringing different people from different backgrounds together. He accepted people for who they were. He judged no one. He was a cop's cop. He respected the law and lived his life by the code of the law. He was a true community officer. He loved and supported his community. It was his honor to serve with everyone. He was a man of his word. He helped people, like the time he bought a car battery for a lady who needed one, or waited 2 hours for another lady to get out of traffic court to give her car keys back, which she had lost. He would check up on people if they were down on their luck. Allan was there to help them or to cheer them up. When I was going through a very difficult time in my life, Allan was my rock. He stuck with me. He stuck with everyone. Allan only loved one more thing than law enforcement, besides maybe hunting: his family. He had Stacy, the woman of his dreams, TJ and little Aaron, his pride and joys. He had the career he always wanted, a police officer, and he was the best friend anyone could ever want. Allan gave us many gifts, not the monetary kind, but the kind that come from the heart. The last gift he gave me was his time. You see, I just had lunch with Allan about an hour before he was called to the scene of a car being flipped. I didn't know at the time, but it was our last meal. Our last time to talk, our last time together. But I think back to that lunch and I see it as a gift from God and from Allan, that I was one of the last people he spent time with. Right before he took off, I said, "Love you, brother. Be safe." Had I known he was leaving, never to return, I would have tried my best to stop him, but he would have gone anyway. That's what he did. He went to help someone. He lived his life to help and serve. So I think about the last time, those last moments, and God knew what he was doing. He wanted us to have one last conversation, one more chance to say, "Love you, brother. Be safe."
Boy, you're gonna know it all. You'll think you're 10 feet tall. Run like you're bulletproof and total a car or two. Boy, you're gonna hate this town. Wish you could burn it down. That fire in your eyes is 20 counties wide. But boy, you're gonna love 17. Boy, you'll do some stupid things. You're gonna drive and kiss and throw a punch and grow up way too fast. You're gonna drop the ball, hit the wall, and break some hearts like glass. I know you will, 'cause you're a part of me, and a part of you will always be. Boy, you gonna be so stubborn. You get that from your mother. I already see it now. You weren't built for backing down. Boy, there'll be a small town night, and you'll fall for her sky blue eyes. And when she's in your hands, you'll think you're a man and not a boy. She'll make you lose your mind. Boy, she'll be every reason why. You're gonna drive and kiss and throw a punch and grow up way too fast. You're gonna drop the ball, hit the wall, and break some hearts like glass. I know you will, 'cause you're a part of me, and a part of you will always be my boy. 3 a.m. and I'd do anything to get you back to sleep. And that face will be the same one in the rear view the day I watch you leave. But boy, you're gonna come back home. You're gonna settle down. But you won't feel the way I'm feeling now. Until you have a boy, he's gonna know it all. He'll You'll think he's 10 feet tall. Run like he's bulletproof. In total, a car or two.
Stacy, thank you for loving him. If he were able to talk to you right now at this moment, I think he would say, babe, this is why I was teaching you to slow down. Because the moments of life, according to the Word of God, are as a vapor. And they seem like they're going to last forever, but then they're gone. And sometimes in our life, we get so busy being busy that we don't stop and take the time and slow down and see everything there really is to be seen and enjoy everything there really is to be enjoyed about one another and about our lives together on this planet. I don't know if he would say thank you for teaching me how to wear shorts and sandals instead of blue jeans and cowboy boots and show my white legs to everybody in Antigua. He may, I don't know. He seemed to, he wore them after that, right? And thanks for talking me into eating the hottest ice cream I've ever had in my whole life with indigestion. The story goes that he would just about do anything. I like this guy because growing up in the mountains of North Carolina as old country boy myself, I was a double dog dare you guy. Anybody in here ever been a double dog dare you guy? So he was a double dog dare you guy, and he liked doing anything on a dare. So he would just do whatever there was to get a good rush, and so he got talked into eating some ice cream that had like ghost pepper sauce on it or something. And he eats it, gets a mouthful, eats it, and he's doing good, and all of a sudden sweat starts breaking out on his head. And when you have no hair, you can't hide it. And it's dripping everywhere. And you know our favorite thing to say even today, and it's probably been said several thousand times this week. You good? I'm good. You good? You all right? I'm all right. It's the favorite cover-up phrase for law enforcement, which says, I'm really not good and I'm really hurting on the inside, but I got to cover that up because I don't want anybody else to think I'm hurting, because if they do, then I appear weak. The Bible says when you and I are weak, in our weakness, that God is made strong in us. And there are things in life that are bigger than you and bigger than me that we really can't handle. 2 funerals in 1 week of law enforcement officers. Today, we're saying goodbye to a fallen hero. Is a lot, and it's over the top for a law enforcement family to have to deal with in our communities. I was absolutely excited to learn about his love for his wife. I always look at that. You can, as a pastor, you can always tell the kind of caliber a man is and was by talking to his wife, whom he is in covenant with. He didn't make an agreement with and sign a contract. He was in covenant with her. And so when you sit and talk with the wife, you can tell what kind of man he is, because she will reveal it from her heart. Out of the abundance of her heart, her mouth will speak. And so to take a guy that loves camouflage, oorah, hunting, oorah, bass fishing, which is one of my favorites. I'm a bass fisherman. 8 pounds, 5 ounces is my biggest so far. I'm going to get 10 pounds one day. But to talk to a guy, to be around a guy that's what he does. He loves spraying animal urine on himself. Sorry, it's just what we do. But that's also a guy that will walk into Tiffany's because he loves his girl and will buy her something special from a very fancy woman's store. That's my kind of guy. He knows how to be tough, hard, deal with life issues, have a strong jaw, but he also knows how to watch his woman, see what she likes, and go get it for her. Even if it means to paint a gun pink or Tiffany color, so she'll have what she wants from her heart. That's my kind of guy. That's the kind of guy I like. I used to watch my wife when we would go to the mall, and she would buy everything for everybody else, me, the boys, and always hang her stuff back and hang it back up and say, "Oh, honey, it's okay. I'll get something later if I really want it." But that's the very thing I would go back, and it's amazing how ladies in those stores will help a guy if he really wants to be a blessing to his wife. And they'll get you shoes, they'll get you earrings, man, they'll by the time you get done, hey, it's a kissing party when you get home, let me tell you. Because you're being a blessing. And it's okay. I know why his name is really the teddy bear, because it's okay to be tough, isn't it, Dad? But also to be tender. And to lead your men in a tough way, but when you get home, lead your wife in a tender way. To take your child by the hand and to walk into school on his first day when he's unsure and not sure what he's going to expect, but Dad's got his hand, and his hand is in Dad's hand. It's the same way for you and me. We're formed out of the dust of the earth, just like Michelangelo made the statue. You and I are formed by God from the dust of the earth and put on the inside of us. Unlike what great sculptures can do, God was able to breathe and blow into us and put into us a living soul and a living heart. And that heart is what drives us, takes us forward. That DNA that's on the inside of you made you what you are today, a desire to become one of the best on the planet, and that's a law enforcement officer. You're not weird. Don't ever let anybody tell you you're weird. All the cadets in here, let me tell you, you're not weird. On the inside of you is destiny and purpose. On the inside of this man was destiny and purpose and a desire to rise up and protect. For some reason, you're driven to do what's right. For some reason, you're driven to the truth instead of a lie. For some reason, you're driven to hold people accountable that want to hurt other people, destroy life, take, harm, or steal. For some reason. It's not some weird reason. It's the very thing that God birthed you into this earth for and put his very heart on the inside of you to say, rise up, stand up today, and be my ambassador in the earth for righteousness and truth. We forget that because sometimes everything doesn't go our way. We forget that because sometimes things go differently than what we expected or what we thought was going to happen. But in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7, the Bible says that God breathed the breath on. He saw what he had molded and made, and that it had no life in it, and so he breathed his very breath into the very first man, Adam. And from him, ladies and gentlemen, all of us came. That DNA is on the inside of you. That purpose is on the inside of you. It's what drives you to be the best you can be. And somewhere along the way, sometimes we forget that it is because of God you're able to do what you do. That it's because of the heart of God that you stand for what you stand for. For he is all righteous, and he is all holy, and he is all truth, and he is all integrity. It is not what he tries to be, it is what he is. And I want to tell you, as a community, as a city, as a state, and as a nation, thank you. Thank you to Aaron, and thank you to all of you that fill this room today, that stand up to do what you do. Some people may say in the public square, we don't want you. That's a lie. We need you on that blue line. We want you on that blue line. And yes, we can handle the truth. Some people may say, they don't take care of us. And I'm telling you, that's a lie. And I came today to honor this man, but I also came today to honor you and tell you that without you, without men and women like this precious man, Lieutenant Allan, that lies before us, no one wants to live in this society. This husband, this father, but also this great man that stands for truth and righteousness. We need you to be those people. We want you to be those people. And we are honored that you stand as those who honor truth and justice and right. Justice stands on your shoulders every day and every night, and on top of your red and blue lights. And it stands beside of you, and we stand with you. There are 4 calls in every person's life. 3 of them you have no choice about. 1 of them you do, but you shouldn't ignore it. One of those calls is you're called to be born. You don't get to choose your parents. You don't get to choose how you came into this world. You're born. Aaron didn't get to choose his mom and dad. They chose him. And we're brought into this earth. Every person in this room had to answer that call. No one is separated from this call. You were born, and you were called to be born. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. The second call that comes into a person's life is they're called to die. There is a call. Every one of us in this room, we're going to pass this way. Every one of us in this room. You may not have honors, you may not have police honors, you may not have a procession, but every person in this room will walk this way, take their last breath, and they will enter into eternity. No one is exempt from that. No one. There's not an amount of money that you can pay to refute the fact that you and I, we're not immortal, we're mortal. And at moments like this, we face our mortality. At moments like this, we face the fact that life can be bigger than us and death can be bigger than us. You're called. There is an appointment. The Bible says unto man, there's an appointed time. The third call is you're appointed or called to be who you are. 2 greatest moments in any person's life is when they're born, and the second is when they understand their purpose and their destiny in life. It's so easy sometimes for people who have locked in on what they were called to do deep in their heart, as a 5-year-old would be, to say, I want to be a police officer, and that's exactly what you become. The road to get there may not be easy, but the peace and joy of knowing you know who you are is a strength in every life. And that call calls out to you. It calls out to you to stand up against the bullies of life. It calls out to you to stand up against the evils that lurk in darkness to harm and hurt those who are unexpectedly passing by. The fourth call that you and I receive in our lives and that we can ignore, but my friends, you and I should not ignore, is the call of God for His honor and for your heart. To not understand that God is why you and I are here and what you uphold in His righteous truth every day is like putting someone else's name on the great statue, the King David, knowing that Michelangelo is the one that carved it. I believe that in our hearts, especially in the law enforcement community, we have a deep reality and understanding, as Allan had, of what righteousness is, because you stand for it. You stand for right. You stand for truth. You stand and you raise your hand, and on your word, lives are changed or moved in courts of law. because your word has been proven to be truth. You and I, above all, should understand the God of all creation that created you and me, and honor him with our lives, with our hearts, and with our loves, because today in our society we need the reverence of God. Our streets need to understand the reverence of God again. And I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm praying for a revival. I'm praying that things that we're dealing with today and we have this week stir in all of our heart a deep revival for what is right. And I want to tell you, the masses are those that love you, not the small voices, not the small crowds you see, not the ones that sometimes get all of the TV time. I'm talking about those who really know the truth, love the truth, pray the truth, and live the truth. And there are masses in our nation that stand for righteousness, that stand for what this man died for, and love the right things of God. And we're praying that it shakes our heart and it shakes our lives and it shakes our communities, to where when people walk down the street, the moral fabric of a man's heart leads him to do what's right, not do what's wrong. And that we care more for one another than we care for ourselves, as our lieutenant so proudly and so desperately showed us to do. I want to say thank you to all of you for sharing his life with us and sharing his stories with us. And Stacy, this is a huge family. They don't go away tomorrow. They don't go away next week. We don't go away ever. And there's love in this room for you, your family, your children. Sir, for you, your wife, for all of those that are family and friends and comrades. We love you. We appreciate you. And as a community, I want to say we stand for you and we pray for you daily. And we give great honor and great joy in our hearts for the life of this man. May you and I rise up, stand strong, and every day that you go out and make that choice and face what you face, may you face it knowing today that there is a comfort that is greater than just a physical touch, because it won't be enough. There's a comfort greater than just a spoken word, because it will never be enough. There's a comfort that goes to the piercing of the spirit of man, and that's the comfort that only the Holy Spirit can provide. And if you'll put your faith and your trust in God, he will absolutely bring that comfort into your heart in these days. God bless you. God bless your family. And God bless those who stand on the blue line.